I mean, customer now expecting to receive the product or the package as soon as possible, but still with reasonable price.
For me, logistics is always about reliability. It's about cost efficiency, making sure that we can operate best, and obviously understanding where we want to be, right? I think if we become too broad, I think we'll spread out too thin, and the ones that cannot adapt will probably, unfortunately, will die.
So my guess is, yeah, it looks a lot like supply and demand imbalance. Players are more specialized in what they perform, and they're partnering where they don't specialize. I think that's where it's got to be.
Hi everyone, welcome back to DigiTalk. Before we get started, let's take a moment to welcome our guest, Kevin Widlansky, Chief Executive Officer at GoTo Logistics. Kevin, welcome.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be here.
Howard Gani, the Chief Commercial Officer at Paxel.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Sindu Sirat, Vice President of Supply Chain Management SCM at Blibli.com.
Hello, Paul.
Nice to have you here. Could you please introduce yourself and share a bit about you?
Kevin? Yeah, Paul, thanks. I'm Kevin. As Paul introduced, I'm the CEO of GoTo Logistics, formerly Swift Logistics before we merged around with Gojek and then bought out eventually by ByteDance. Right now, we're the back end making sure that, similar to my friends, that when you order something from our site, it gets to you the right time and the right condition.
Now, Sindu?
Yeah, just to continue, well, I'm part of Blibli Supply Chain Management. As Kevin mentioned, that I'm ensuring that if you order from Blibli.com, then we will deliver you the right package in a good quality and good lead time.
And Howard?
Yes, my name is Howard. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Paxel. So for me, my role is really looking at growing the company and making sure that the consumers are happy with our services.
Let's start with a quick look at the landscape. The major e-commerce players in Indonesia, like Tokopedia with GoTo Logistics and Blibli with Blibli Express Service (BES), have started developing their own in-house logistic network. Although maybe the GoTo Logistics is a bit different story. Yeah, okay. These changes and create a new challenges for 3PL provider, for example like Paxel, to expand their service and adapt to stay competitive. Now, today we hope we will have a discussion around it and to talk about what is influencing the logistic market in Indonesia, the player, how we will take a look in the future with the player, and what we expect the market, the ecosystem will look like in the future. We also take a look we also know that there's intense competition coming from China to Indonesia, and also how the local logistic react. Okay, because we also know some of the e-commerce are back end to end from the China, and also we are talking about what is the conventional logistic company. We know there are a lot of conventional logistic company. They're already striving in Indonesia and coming with a new logistic company that actually either back from foreign country or also back from the new VC, what we call also with logistic technology company and so on. And also talking now with the new trend where a lot of the e-commerce build their own in-house logistic. So that's the discussion around it. Okay, we're going to take a look from Blibli first. Okay, what do you think why Blibli growing their own logistic?
Actually, when we start to build our capability on logistic in BES, we call it BES. Yeah, it's not to compete with the existing logistic partners. So we want to collaborate. We want to build the ecosystem together. We believe the logistic partner have their own strength. For example, Paxel with the capability of fast delivery for fresh and frozen, that kind of services. While in BES, we want to have or try another way to satisfy our customer, or another way to serve the order from our client. For example, we built our capability for tukar tambah, trade-in. So if you want to buy, say, mobile phone in Blibli, then you can trade in with your existing mobile phone. So our courier will come to you with the new mobile phone, then check the mobile phone that you want to trade in, If it is okay, then we will give you the new one. But if not okay, we cancel. So that kind of activity of services, we do not see existing logistic partner have this kind of things. Or even when we have a client want to have some kind of marketing event, then they want to have the customer experience to receive the product at date something 0000 time. So we'll knock at your door, we deliver the package for you at the midnight. So that kind of experience that we want to build. But overall, we still continue to collaborate with our logistic partners.
And from your point of view, Kevin?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to this, because actually I would think that GTL, I know GTL was founded similarly. The objective, I mean, as you probably know, when we started off, we were purely fulfillment. We always wanted to get back into delivery, but Swift was fulfillment. The question is how to get back into delivery. And I think the point you made was right on, which is you got to mesh it to what your specific strategy and strength was going to be. And when we relaunched delivery, the focus was on speed and reliability, intracity, right? So part of that was because the strategy of Tokopedia in some way was similar to Blibli, but it was also because we saw room in Tokopedia's volume to profitably, I'll use that term, grow an organic fleet to service where that demand and supply was dense, right? And so for us, the strategy was always very simple. High reliability service, focus on where we were dense, and outsource everything else because, as you said, I look at players as, the people talk about in-house players competing, knocking out the independent 3PLs. Frankly, that's not feasible to do in an economical way. You're never going to be able to outplay a J&E broadly throughout Indonesia. J&E is just too dense in too many places. You'll never have that density. So for us, it was focus on what was economical, focus on what was strategically something we needed to develop to service the customer, and outsource everything else.
Interesting, right? So this focus actually in the dense part, right? So because that will be like make your fulfillment with the cost and so on will be more efficient and more possible. And on the other hand, by doing it in-house, you have more control, right? As you say, you want, for example, to create a new service like Tukar Tambah, it will be difficult, for example, to do it with 3PL, right? How actually you're going to manage it, okay? The other trend with the previous trend also like COD, it's also difficult with 3PL, how you're going to collect the money, what is like the calculation and yeah, the balance, the trading balance and so on properly. It's not very easy to do it with the other partner, right?
Yeah, but I think for COD in Indonesia, some key logistic partner already have the right capability for that.
They already develop it now because
yes.
of the size of the market now. Yeah. But in the beginning, when the COD actually term introduced to Indonesia, it's not easy for 3PL to enter it, right? And it took like 3PL times to learn about it and how actually they're going to deliver it in the correct manner to do the balance, the trading balance and the calculation, to able to do it, deliver it in profitable manner for them, right? The same also maybe Tukar Tambah not possible, but in the future maybe. It's also need time to learn it. Okay, for Paxel, what do you think about the growing of in-house logistics?
I think from a consumer perspective, competition is actually good for us, right? It drives innovation, it drives efficiency. For Paxel, it's really about obviously, are we nervous about it? Are we looking at it? Yes, of course. We need to be aware of the situation, how the industry develop. For us, it's also understanding where we're good at, what we want to focus in Paxel, right? We definitely don't want to focus on everything. There's certain areas that we want to be good at, and we felt that the customers appreciate us in terms of what is our unique selling proposition here. And obviously, we also look at outside, right? We look at the cases for in-house logistics. I think one of the big case will be Amazon, right? On building FBA and logistics company, and how the 3PLs within their regions are trying to working together with them and come up with hybrid solutions, right? So for us, it's really about, knowing where we come in. Like when I work with Blibli, it's the same as well. Where we're good at and what Blibli wants to cover for the customers as well.
Okay. Sindu, I also heard that Blibli fulfillment center, the SCM, is also actually provide services outside Blibli. So can you tell us a bit about it? And before that, and then after that, I will go to Kevin.
Yeah. Basically, because Blibli, we already built our capability in supply chain for e-commerce industry. So we have warehouse management system, people, operation that really suit for this kind of model. So we also offer to other than Blibli, seller or business partner to have the product in our warehouse, to have consignment in our warehouse, and they can sell in any other platform, not only Blibli. Then if the customer order from that platform, so we will receive the order, we'll do the picking, packing, and then there is a label also from that platform, and we will hand over the package to the logistic courier or logistic partner assigned by that platform. So basically, we are not in Blibli supply chain management. We are not only serving for Blibli.com order. So we engage with client.
Therefore, for example, like let's say a customer, they're going to buy from that store.
Yeah.
He didn't even know, even that he bought it from another platform. He didn't even know that actually fulfilled by Blibli.
Yeah, it's coming from our warehouse actually.
Kevin, what about GoTo Logistics?
Yeah, it's the same, at least from the fulfillment side. Now, stepping back, there's always been talk of, I'm sure Blibli has the same talk of, you want to be an omni-channel fulfillment capable entity. But then when you talk about that, right, or at least when we did, the fulfillment operations, the warehouse operations was one thing. Fulfilling an order from Blibli or Tokopedia or TikTok or Shopee from a warehouse, fairly standard. Everybody has slightly different service levels. That's not hard to manage. But where that whole thing would get complex and where the strategy of, I want to be the backend who dominates, like theoretically, I can build a backend that holds Shopee hostage. The problem is to do that, you have to understand, you have to master how Shopee's marketplace itself works, how Shopee's customers work, how Shopee's promotions work. And so now you have to have a front end that's managing the store, that has the expertise in managing a store on not just Tokopedia, but managing the store on Shopee, managing the store on Blibli. And for what we've seen, at least for us, that was never, we were never able to do that. And that's where the likes of a Circle sort of do it. Well, they do it better. They don't do, no offense to Circle, I don't think they do it great. That's always the challenge with that model. I'm guessing you probably found the same thing, which is, look, we can handle the back end, but the front end is a problem that tends to constrain the growth of that cross-channel service from the in-house providers.
Correct. Yeah, basically that's correct. Those are the back end or for fulfillment is the one that I think in general the same, but the front end it's challenging. Some of our client we can handle it, but some other client they handle it by themselves because of the uniqueness of the business, the uniqueness of the consumer itself. Yeah.
Okay. Howard, how do you see the progress of the in-house logistics, how they grow, and how actually they manage also fulfillment for other customer, for the competition like the 3PL like Paxel?
I think for us so far, because we've never been heavily reliant on e-commerce, and we always grew and understand how the customers values us. Right? And in this case, for generally, Paxel is quite known for our cold and frozen services, or for sensitive product handling. We've been able to actually work quite well with these guys, right? With Blibli and Sindu here as well, and we support Tokopedia as well. And we're quite happy with our service there as well. And like Kevin said, we're actually maintaining speed. We're actually making sure the SLA is great, the quality and the safety is great, and that's where we're basically trying to simplify our strategy and really focus on their pull. So for us, the in-house logistics, it's I think coming back to the term that having competition is great. It adds value to the customer, but for Paxel itself, we see it as a complementary. Really.
Sindu, you talk about the omnichannel. Kevin also talk a little bit about the omnichannel. We understand that everybody want to grow their ecosystem, want to create efficiency across the ecosystem. Okay, therefore I heard a lot the new offline business that Blibli going through?
Yeah.
Okay, can you explain a bit about it?
So I think starting like a few years ago, we are changing or more than previously only e-commerce industry. Now we are become omni-channel, which we build capability for offline stores. So we have rents as part of the group, and then also we built we call it omni-channel mobility group. So we built a store, offline store like Hello Store, Blibli Store, even Tukar Tambah Store, selling mobile phone devices. So this also part of the changing that we want to build the online and offline business together.
Okay, just for example, for anyone who doesn't know about Hello Store actually direct competitor of the Digimap and also Rajaya in a way for the Apple products.
Yeah, it's selling specifically only Apple products.
Yeah. So it's like a new competitor, like one of the one that get directly the rights for distributing Apple products.
Yes, we directly import from Apple and then selling in Hello Store.
Okay. On that, does Paxel like seeing like the development of the omnichannel? Does Paxel actually like find like a niche market, can contribute, can also work in this area?
Yeah, definitely, Paul. I mean, when we talk to the Blibli team, we understand that, hey, you know, there's this certain strategy or this certain movement going on. And for us, is yes, we're quite known for cold and fresh and frozen product, but we can also actually deliver ambient or room temperature or dry goods as well. So in this case, we support them actually in the omni-channel, the offline channel, where they try to balance the inventory when they deliver from the warehouse to the outlets and between outlets as well. That I think, you know, we support our friends in Blibli as well. So yeah.
It's an interesting strategy, right? Because I think, you know, again, I actually admire Blibli's strategy from the outside. It's something that when Tokopedia was just Tokopedia, I would have argued it's something that Tokopedia should have done, which is, you know, figure out which categories it wanted to play in and focus accordingly instead of trying to be broad across. Because the implication is like take what, you know, you guys were just talking about with omni-channel or with return servicing. Doing online to offline for electronics is different from doing online to offline for fashion or online to offline. So you've got to know where you're trying to play to be able to do that well. Same with returns, like returns handling for electronics and I don't know, whatever FMCG is very different.
Very
worlds,
different
you know?
approach, yeah.
And so understanding your ecosystem, what customer you're after and where you want to focusing is important. So when, for us, we never got into omnichannel. We always thought about it, right? And it was always out there. Do we want to go broad across e-commerce and service different platforms? Or did we want to do online to offline and also handle the offline side, right? But we never quite got there because the ByteDance acquisition happened. And for us, that really kind of changed our role, right? Because ByteDance was a very, or TikTok was a very different animal than say Blibli. Much more like Shopee, I would guess, which was there more about broad fronts. And what that meant for us was that we became more of, one, GTL was always kept as a separate entity, right? Largely because they wanted us to manage ourselves as if we were fighting with Paxel, for example. But what it meant for us is strategically we repositioned ourselves. And we went from, I remember when we started this conversation, you asked me how and why we started GTL. We started what we were focused on, and we're still focused on, to be honest, with the dense supply-demand diets, but we're focused on the higher end. So we did same-day, next-day service primarily. Regular service was very much an afterthought just to fill out volume where we were already dense. We never did COD. We wouldn't, and that was on purpose. We didn't want to touch that stuff. That's, you know, again, Tokopedia's market was one way, and COD was irrelevant. But when TikTok came in, COD was everything, right? So we had to flip. And so for us, the best way to play in the TikTok market was we needed to become that ultra reliable. Like, again, so what I know is number one is we throttled back on the speed. It didn't require as much speed. But what we did is we doubled down on reliability. So we, you know, that window, that P20 or that P10 to P90 time frame, we always made sure we were better than anybody else in terms of the expectation, right? Which is always our way of looking at things. We didn't want to necessarily be the fastest, what we wanted to do even before TikTok came was when you ordered, let's say if you ordered same day, 99.9% of the time it came that day. If you ordered next day, and when it came same day, we didn't want it to come, and this was something I used to always get angry about, by the way, which was you would order same day and Gojek, the Gojek side or our on-demand side would deliver. They would deliver same day at 10 a.m. Like, what the hell? Like, why are we bleeding all that value by delivering something that's essentially instant at 10 a.m.? If somebody wants same day, they pay for same day, deliver it at 9:59 p.m., done. And as much as possible, I want same day arriving between 9:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. If it's arriving earlier than that, we're wasting value, right? That's how we looked at it. But now with TikTok, we flip that and we say, okay, we will slow it down, but we'll keep the same tight band and do COD, which obviously a lot tougher. With the strategy being always pushing the likes of, now instead of pushing you at the high end, we're pushing JNE, JNT at the regular end to keep them performing. And again, keeping us so that, in terms of the costs, so make sure that we're cost competitive, keeping us focused on those dense supply-demand diets so we're actually making money on it versus outsourcing. Because the only way you can is if you're dense. Otherwise, JNE is going to win every time. So that's how it flipped with the TikTok deal.
Kevin, you talk about the transition between Tokopedia and TikTok Shop, the transition and so on. Was it difficult, this transition for GoTo Logistics?
Well, for us, if you look at us historically, we've gone through a lot of transitions, right? There's a reason I'm wearing a Swift t-shirt. We used to be Swift. We were founded as Swift in 2020. Transition 1 was at the end of 2020 when we were bought by Tokopedia. Transition 2 was when when Gojek and Tokopedia merged, so then we had to transition into that. Transition 3 was in, Swift swallowed up, logistics from Tokopedia and Gojek to become GTL. That was another transition, so this was just another, right? So I guess from the perspective of the people side, it wasn't all that new for us to do such a thing. Again, I think the big shift was the strategy. The strategy became, instead of being, high reliability, high speed, leveraging both the, what we called the Kilot fleet that we brought over from Gojek and the conventional fleet that we built to build out a kind of hybrid fleet capability. It became more about, okay, with TikTok, focus on, bringing down the cost of delivery by, forcing the likes of JNE, JNT to compete with our low, our low unit costs from operating in very dense areas, because that's how you bring down that unit cost, is the density. It's the only way it's the only way you can really compete with somebody as big as JNE. So the change in roles, the change in strategy is really the biggest shift. I mean, largely because we were already used to going back and, changing owners. We've done that several times over the past few years.
Thank you, all of you. We have a very good discussion, very interesting. We want to close this, but what you are guys thinking about the logistic market in Indonesia will look like. We have intense competition with a foreign logistic market coming to Indonesia because they also have the e-commerce in Indonesia. They want to create their own ecosystem. They want to provide, because they also already have a long supply chain. They want to push everything here. And also about three of you are the local logistic company in Indonesia. How you will see the market will look like and how you going to grow it, and what do you think about the competition will look like? Okay, maybe start with Sindu.
Yeah. From my point of view, I think the logistic partner or the logistic industry in Indonesia will be about to be like what we have now. I mean, it's very challenging to have the capability to serve Indonesia as an archipelago with the consumer spread around. So every logistic partner must have a collaborative with each other, because you cannot just start everything to cover all. You must start from the high density, but when you want to go further, that you might need to collaborate instead of build your own capability. And with the current existing service of like Grab or GoSend, which can serve in very fast lead time with a reasonable cost, it will continue to be grow. I mean, customer now expecting to receive the product or the package as soon as possible, but still with reasonable price. For the if there's other company or other country who want to like start the logistic business in Indonesia, again it will be challenging. They must collaborate with the local one. It's difficult to build.
They cannot do it alone.
Yeah, they cannot. So we must build the ecosystem together. We must, well, we need to compete, but still collaborate.
Okay. Howard, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, logistics is always about reliability. It's about cost efficiency, making sure that we can operate best, and obviously understanding where we want to be, right? I think if we become too broad, I think we'll spread out too thin, and the ones that cannot adapt will probably, unfortunately, will die. That's what I think will happen. But looking at all the other competitors coming in, to be honest, what we haven't addressed in Indonesia, and I don't know whether it can be just private companies that address this, is towards the areas that we're not actually covering well, to the east, the islands, right? And we're talking about infrastructures that requires heavy capital capex, right, in order to cover those areas well. And I think these are the sort of areas that I hope in the future that us, all three of us here will find a way or find a solution, or with government support as well, we're able to cover that much better than today.
Thank you, Howard. And Kevin?
Yeah, like leaving cross-border out of it and just focusing on internal Indonesia, the first thing is the capacity situation. And I think, looking back, I think now it's finally sane. Like there was an insane overcapacity situation a couple years ago. I think that's largely remedied, although I think there's still a few zombies hanging around there. But I sense that we're not in the dire situation we were in a couple years back. Two, I think the biggest thing, and it's already been mentioned, is finally you'll see more specialization. I hope the e-commerce companies will figure out that they need to pick a market and try to own a market or a market segment instead of trying to be everything to everybody. I think that's a real lesson. And I think there's, at the e-commerce front end side, I'm sure there's still a bit of optimization that will continue to occur. But on the logistics side, we'll have the same, which is, you'll see more specialization in type of SLAs that'll be performed, in geographies people will operate, and people will, or entities will cooperate more across. I think that's the ultimate, way to go. Now, I think there's a challenge. I think we've talked about it before, which is there are players that, despite the fact that we're finally seemingly close to, if not at, the right kind of supply-demand balance, who want to come in and, they want to build again because, oh, it's not us, which, frankly, is stupid. I think this is where, again, the model, which is you come in, you're best to partner with somebody as opposed to build a whole new network. My hope is that kind of sanity is now here to stay, but let's see. So my guess is, yeah, it looks a lot like supply and demand imbalance. Players are more specialized in what they perform, and they're partnering where they don't specialize. I think that's where it's got to be.
Thank you all, and that's wrap up our discussion with Kevin, Howard, and Sindu. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing the discussion about the logistic market in Indonesia, how the future will look like, how actually the competition will look like, how the cooperation will look like. Stay tuned for more episodes of DigiTalk. See you next time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.